Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments. We love seeing how far our stories travel. If this story moved you, made you think, or even brought a tear to your eye, let us know below. Your thoughts truly matter to us. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because tomorrow we're bringing you another powerful story that you won't want to miss. It's one that might just change the way you see the world. See you then? Samantha Reed was the kind of woman who didn't believe in luck. At 42, she had built one of Chicago's fastest-growing tech firms from the ground up, fueled not by charm or connections, but by discipline, data, and a relentless drive to succeed. Her office tower stood tall in the heart of the city, glass and steel reflecting the ambition that had shaped every floor. Inside, the culture was fast-paced, demanding and highly efficient, just the way Samantha liked it. There were no birthday parties, no casual Fridays, and definitely no personal calls during work hours. Everything had a purpose. Every minute was accounted for. She believed success was a formula. Work hard, deliver results, and you'll rise. It was how she had climbed out of a modest apartment in the south side of Chicago and into a penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. She lived by her schedule, measured progress in KPIs, and treated her calendar like scripture. Meetings were to the point. Decisions were data-backed, and underperformers were quietly replaced. There was no room for excuses. To her, this wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. Samantha genuinely believed that her expectations were fair. After all, she paid top dollar. Most employees earned above the industry average with generous performance. Bonuses and sleek office perks like free coffee, standing desks, and a gym on the third floor. But behind that polished glass and modern design, something was missing. She barely knew the names of the people beyond her executive team. She had never asked about their families, their health, or even how they were holding up. That wasn't her job, she told herself. Her role was to lead, to build, to grow. If someone couldn't keep up, perhaps they simply weren't cut out for the climb. But lately, something had begun to shift. Something subtle. Productivity was slipping. The energy on the floors below seemed duller. The smiles at the Monday meetings had faded. Some employees, though still efficient, looked tired, disconnected, even withdrawn. Samantha noticed it, but she didn't understand it. After all, the company's numbers were solid. Revenue was up. Deadlines were met. So why did everything feel hollow? Still, she dismissed it as burnout, something that would pass like a cold. She doubled down on structure, rolled out stricter time tracking, and added another round of weekly performance reviews. Her logic was simple. Pressure makes diamonds. The company had no room for comfort. Comfort was the enemy of growth. But deep down, beneath all the confidence and control, a quiet question had started to form in her mind. Was it possible she had missed something? Something important? She didn't have the answer. Not yet. But that question, faint as it was, would soon lead her down a path she never expected, a path that would shake everything she thought she knew about success, leadership, and the true cost of building an empire. It was a Wednesday evening when Samantha Reed's curiosity got the better of her. She had just finished a long meeting with her senior team, the kind of meeting where numbers looked good, but no one seemed particularly energized. As she walked past the rows of cubicles, something, or rather someone, caught her eye. It was Michael Torres, one of the warehouse supervisors, 38, quiet, punctual, always the first to arrive and the last to leave. He was the kind of employee who never caused trouble, never asked for anything, and never missed a shift. On paper, he was perfect. But in person, there was something different about him lately. He looked tired, more than tired, really. He looked worn down, like he was carrying a weight that no one else could see. Samantha didn't know why, but she hesitated that evening instead of heading straight to the elevator. She watched Michael gather his things, a faded backpack, a dented lunchbox, a coat that looked a size too small. He didn't say goodbye to anyone, just slipped out quietly like he always did. Something in her gut told her to follow. She'd never done anything like that before. She didn't stalk her employees. That wasn't who she was, but tonight felt different. And for the first time in a long time, Samantha didn't trust the reports on her desk. She wanted to see something, for herself. She kept a distance as she followed his old pickup truck through the darkening streets of Chicago, out past the polished glass buildings and into neighborhoods where the sidewalks cracked and the streetlights flickered. They drove nearly 45 minutes before Michael pulled into a small rundown apartment complex on the city's west side. Samantha parked a few spots down and watched as he carried a grocery bag. Nothing fancy, just bread, some milk, maybe a few cans, up a narrow flight of stairs. From the lot, she could see the light flick on inside. 2 children, maybe 7 or 8, ran to the door the second it opened. "Daddy!" she could hear faintly through the cracked window. Michael smiled, kneeling down and hugging them both tightly. He handed over the bag, and the kids tore into it like it was Christmas morning. They weren't excited, they were hungry. Really hungry. Samantha felt a chill run down her spine. This man had worked for her company for 6 years. He pulled in, overtime every week, rarely took sick days, and yet here he was, feeding his kids from a plastic grocery bag in a crumbling apartment. She sat frozen in her car, her heart pounding. Everything she thought she knew about fairness, about how hard work always pays off, it all felt like a lie. She'd been so focused on efficiency, so obsessed with performance, that she'd forgotten to look beyond the data. Michael Torres wasn't just a line on a payroll spreadsheet. He was a father, barely holding it together. And in that moment, Samantha realized something. Success meant nothing if it came at the cost of humanity. Samantha couldn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The image of Michael Torres and his children burned into her mind like a scar she couldn't unsee. That small, dim apartment. The way the little girl had clung to her father's coat. The desperation in their eyes as they tore open a plastic bag of groceries like it was their only meal of the day. And worst of all, Michael's face. That forced smile, that quiet pain, that look in his eyes that said, "I don't know how much longer I can do this." Samantha had always thought of herself as a fair leader. Demanding, yes, but fair. She offered high wages, clean workspaces, healthcare packages. But now, that all seemed like smoke and mirrors. The reality was sitting right in front of her the entire time, and she hadn't seen it. Or maybe she hadn't wanted to. How many more Michaels are there, she wondered. The next morning, Samantha didn't head to the office like usual. No driver, no espresso from her favorite cafe, no boardroom filled with polished suits. Instead, she pulled on jeans, a hoodie, and a baseball cap. She didn't want to be recognized, not today. She drove herself back to the west side of Chicago, parking 2 blocks away from Michael's apartment. She didn't knock on his door. This wasn't about him, not yet. She walked the streets slowly, taking in everything she had ignored for so long. Peeling paint on the buildings, trash tucked into corners, kids walking to school with backpacks that had seen better days, a grandmother dragging a grocery cart full of empty cans. This wasn't the world she lived in. It was a world her employees went home to. Everywhere she looked, there were signs of struggle, quiet, invisible battles happening behind closed doors. She thought about her company's core values: efficiency, excellence, innovation, impressive words, safe words. But what about empathy? What about dignity? Did those even matter in the world she had built? Her phone buzzed, emails, texts, calendar reminders, but she ignored them all. For the first time in years, she was thinking with her heart, not her spreadsheet. By noon, she sat down at a small, no-frills cafe tucked between 2 shuttered storefronts. That's when a message came through. It was from Michael. "Miss Reed. So I'm not sure why, but I saw your car outside my building last night. If you'd like to talk, I'm free for lunch." Samantha stared at the screen for a long moment. Part of her felt embarrassed. What had she hoped to gain by following him? But another part of her knew this was the moment, the start of something bigger. She typed back quickly, "I'd like that very much. There's something I need to tell you, something I should have realized a long time ago." And with that, she set her phone down and took a breath, deep, steady, and different. For the first time in a long time, Samantha Reed was ready to listen. Michael arrived at the cafe just after 12:30. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept much either. His shirt was clean but worn, and his eyes, those same eyes Samantha had seen through the window the night before, were cautious. He spotted her in the corner booth and gave a polite nod as he walked over. "Thanks for meeting me," Samantha said, offering a small, genuine smile. Michael sat down across from her, folding his hands on the table. "I wasn't sure what this was about. I mean, I've worked for your company a long time, but we've never really talked." Samantha nodded. "I know. And that's part of the problem." There was a long pause. The hum of the street outside, the clinking of dishes behind the counter, it all faded as she leaned forward and spoke. "Last night, I followed you. I know that sounds crazy, and maybe it is, but I needed to understand. I've spent years running my company by the numbers. I thought if the salary was decent and the benefits checked the boxes, then everything was fine. But what I saw last night, what I saw in your life, told me something was deeply wrong." Michael didn't say anything right away. He just looked at her, eyes narrowed slightly, waiting. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice quiet. "Not just for following you, for not seeing, for not asking, for building a company that turned people like you into ghosts." Michael's jaw clenched. Then he let out a slow breath. "I appreciate you saying that," he said carefully, "but I'm not looking for sympathy. I just want to do right by my kids. That's all. I work hard. I do everything I can. And it still feels like it's never enough." His voice cracked on the last word, and Samantha felt her throat tighten. "It's not fair," she whispered. "No," Michael replied. "It's not." That afternoon changed everything. Samantha returned to her office with a fire she hadn't felt in years. She didn't care about revenue charts or the glowing quarterly reports. She cared about people. Real people like Michael Torres who were breaking themselves to keep her company alive. She called an emergency board meeting the next morning. Her executives were surprised to see her without slides, without charts, without any of the usual polish. But she spoke from the heart. "We're changing the way we do business," she said firmly. "Starting now, we're raising the base wage to $25 an hour. We're launching a family support fund. We're adding childcare stipends and mental health services. And we're going to start seeing our employees as human beings, not just human resources." The room went silent. David Kramer, one of the longest-standing board members, leaned forward. "That's a major shift, Samantha. Investors won't like it." Samantha didn't blink. "Let them be uncomfortable. I'd rather lose a few investors than lose the soul of this company." And just like that, the wheels of real change began to turn. For the first time in years, the company wasn't just growing. It was waking up. The announcement spread through the company like wildfire. By noon the next day, everyone, from entry-level assistants to senior engineers, was packed into the main auditorium. No one knew exactly why they'd been called in. Rumors were flying. Some thought layoffs, others guessed a merger, but no one expected what was coming. Samantha Reed stepped onto the stage, no suit, no teleprompter, just her holding a piece of folded paper in one hand and a truth burning inside her chest. "Good morning," she began, her voice calm but full of emotion. "I know this isn't how we usually do things, and I know many of you are wondering why you're here. The answer is simple. I owe you something." She paused. The room was dead silent. "For years, I built this company with a laser focus on success. I believed in productivity, in growth, in pushing forward no matter the cost. And while that brought us profits, it cost us something else, something more important." She looked out over the crowd, faces she'd passed by 100 times, but never really seen. Tired eyes, quiet shoulders, people who had shown up every day, given everything they had, and received far too little in return. "I recently learned something," she continued, her voice tightening. "I followed one of our employees home. His name is Michael Torres. He works harder than almost anyone I've ever seen, and yet his kids go to bed hungry. That's not okay. That's not what we stand for. Not anymore." A soft murmur moved through the crowd. "So here's what's changing," she said, standing taller now. "Effective immediately, we're raising base pay across the board. We're offering childcare support, launching an employee emergency fund, and restructuring our leadership training to include empathy, not just efficiency. This company isn't just going to be a place to work. It's going to be a place where people live, where they grow, where they're seen, and where they're valued. She stepped back from the mic, heart pounding. There was a long, heavy silence, then a single clap, then two. Then the entire auditorium broke out into thunderous applause. In the back of the room, Michael stood quietly, hands in his pockets, his eyes glistening. He didn't cheer, didn't move, but he nodded just once, and in that small, simple gesture, Samantha felt something shift deep inside her. This wasn't just about fixing a company. This was about rebuilding trust, about turning cold ambition into something human, something lasting. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Not everyone would support the changes. Investors would push back. Margins would tighten. But for the first time in her life, Samantha Reed wasn't afraid. She was no longer just building an empire. She was building a legacy. Now that you've heard Samantha's story, we want to hear yours. Have you ever worked in a place where you felt invisible, where no one saw the struggles you carried home at night? Or maybe you're a leader yourself trying to find the balance between success and compassion. Whatever your story is, we'd love for you to share it in the comments. Below, tell us, what part of this story resonated with you the most? Do you think real change like this is possible in today's corporate world? Or do you believe the system is too far gone? Your voice matters here. When you leave a comment, you're not just reacting to a video, you're joining a bigger conversation about empathy, leadership, and what it really means to value people. We read every single comment, and who knows, your perspective might just inspire the next story we tell. So don't be shy. Scroll down, type it out, and let's talk. Let's connect, because behind every great story, and there's a real person just like you.